Hello, my name is Kathy. I've taken a break away. We're in Durham at the moment. It was on Mick, Rebel Without a Pause's invite. He's gathered a group of people together, all truthers, but we do have some differences of opinion. We're not arguing about it, but we're just discussing different points of view. And one of the questions that has been raised is how to deal with the current situation. And by that, I mean, if I go into a supermarket, I'm quite happy if I'm asked, are you exempt? I will simply say yes. If I'm asked to produce a card, then I will produce an exemption card. If I go into a venue that's requesting that there's a track and trace, I'll agree to write down a name. Of course, it's a name, not my name, that I'm writing down, and I'll write down a fictitious number. Other people feel that a more honest approach is needed, and then you're one of them. So can you give me your opinion?
Yeah, I've never worn a mask. I am exempt really because I get asthma, but that's not the reason I take the exemption card with me. I just refuse to wear a mask. It's part of a satanic ritual. I'm not joining in with it. And when it comes to track and trace, I'd rather walk away. Different if I'm with a group of people because I don't want to upset the day and then I've got to try and think, which way am I going to go with this? But when I'm on my own, if I go in a cafe and they want my details, I make a point of waiting until I'm at the front of the queue and they ask for it, and I say, no, I'm not giving my details, and I walk away. It's just a principle. I'm not being tracked unless it's absolutely necessary, and I don't believe it's necessary to go in and be tracked.
So, but if you were to write down a fictitious name and number, obviously you're not being tracked.
I just feel that that's following the rules. They appear. It appears that way. If enough people decided to walk away, like I do, the business would have to start thinking, hold up, this is going to cost us money. Nobody wants track and trace. And they'd have to make contact with the government, the whoever, to see if there's an alternative way around it and see if it can be stopped.
I think that's a fair point of view.
Yeah.
I accept what
Everyone's
you're
got to
saying.
make their own
Yeah.
choice. So
Yeah.
I've got no feelings towards other people that make a different choice from me. That's their choice.
Yeah.
I like to just stand my ground, and I'm a bit pig-headed when it comes to things like that.
Well, I appreciate you answering the question, and
You're
I'm going to
welcome.
ask the same question of a different team member. Okay, so your name is Chris
Yeah.
Jackson. You've also got a YouTube video
Yeah,
channel.
Chris F.E. Jackson. Yeah.
Yep. And you're on this group meeting. I'm not quite sure why Mick invited you. Had to be said.
It's my animal magnetism.
So you heard the question. What's your opinion on approaching this situation? If you go into a venue, do you just say, no, I'm not wearing a mask? Or do you go along with it and say, well, I'm exempt from wearing a mask? Which way would you go?
Well, my first reaction is when I walk in, I don't have a mask on, and I wait to be accosted. If sometimes in local shops they don't bother asking; they just ignore you. Some people will ask you if you have a mask. You say no. Then they ask the question: are you exempt? Sometimes I say yes. Sometimes I say I don't know, and then see what the response is from that. It's been varied, but when I say yes, I am exempt, and then they say, do you have any proof that you're exempt? And I just say yes. And then they ask to see it, and I choose not to show it, or I do show it.
So you're putting the onus on them
Exactly.
to have to keep on
Yes.
asking. I think that's actually a brilliant
I don't see why I have to. I'm innocent until proven guilty, okay?
Yeah.
I don't see why I have to show my personal attributes regarding an aspect to somebody I've never met or talked to before in my life.
Yeah.
But if it's a condition of entering a premise, then I will actually go along to make it easy. But I'm always polite. I'm never offensive. I always keep a stable decorum to the individual and respect for them doing a job.
Yeah. And what about track and trace?
Don't do it.
No?
No,
Do you pretend to put down a fake name or number or anything like that if you're asked to?
I just say I don't have a mobile phone.
And if they ask you to write it down?
I just put whatever comes straight into my head,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
I think my latest one was Dr. Finkelbaum. You know?
Yeah.
So-
I've heard of quite a few that are
Yeah.
pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's, you know.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you very much. And you'll be back again in a minute for a
Okay.
second question.
Thank you very much.
And now we'll move on to someone else. Thank you. So, Mick,
Yep.
the star of the show, obviously.
Hardly.
Our leader. So, yeah, you've heard the question that I've been asking. What's
Right.
your opinion on how to approach mask wearing when you're asked to wear a mask and asked to track and trace?
I will never wear a mask. I never have and I never will. In fact, to get me to wear a mask, they'll need to tie me to a chair and use a staple gun. I refuse totally.
Yeah.
This started on a Thursday. I phoned my GP on the Wednesday and I says to him, what's the script for the mask? And he says to me, you'll never need to wear a mask and nobody can ask you why.
Right.
Now, Lynn sent me, I think it was 50, was it the 50 of the exemption cards? And I spent weeks giving it to the elderly in my
Yeah.
community.
Yeah.
And I only asked them if they take the mask off and take a deep breath of fresh air. And when they did, I said, does that not feel better? And they said, aye. I went, well, there's a card. Put
Yeah.
that in your pocket. And that's what they did.
Yeah.
And there's no reason to wear a mask, and I'll never do it. And I've been asked. In fact, I was accosted in, I think it was Aldi, and the security guard approached me as soon as I walked in and said, you're not wearing a mask? I says, I know. And I just walked away.
Right.
Then they accosted me at the top of the shop, there was two of them. And they said, it's about your mask. I said, I told you I won't wear a mask. Would you like sued? Because in April this year, there was a judgment in a court in England where a guy was given £7,000 compensation for discrimination because he was asked why he didn't wear a mask.
Right.
And that's my answer to any security guard or anybody that approaches me. As far as track and trace is concerned, I'll take no part in it.
Right.
Ever.
So you don't write down a fake
Nothing.
name?
Nothing.
So more of a sort of similar approach to Lynn on
Pretty
that score,
much.
yeah.
I'll take
Yeah.
no part in it.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think I try to say it as loud as I can so that everybody hears me.
Yeah.
I'm not quiet.
Yeah.
And I think people should follow my lead. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to get people to do.
Yeah.
And I lead by example.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for answering.
No
and
problem.
we will move on to the next
Aye.
member of the
Okay.
group. Right, Sandy, you've been listening to the question that I asked. Now, just to make it clear, Sandy is here on the pretext that she thinks we're going to zone out her voice and cover her face and all sorts because she hates being on camera. And you can see we did that, yeah? So you can trust us, Sandy. Right, so, but you don't wear a mask, do you?
I've never
Have
worn
you-
a mask.
You've never worn a mask?
Never, even when I've gone to hospital.
Right, so what do you say if you're approached? Obviously, someone's going to ask you. Do you wear the lanyard at all when you walk in
Never
somewhere?
worn a lanyard.
So do you wait until someone comes and asks you?
When I get asked, I just say I'm exempt, and then I just carry on walking. I just leave it at that.
Okay. So you don't offer to show a card or anything like that?
No,
So,
no.
Okay. And what about the track and trace? Because I think today we were out and I think you put a fake name down, but it was a really good one.
Yeah, I had to write down S-CAM, and then I put a fake phone number down.
Yeah. No, I think that's brilliant. I'm going to start stealing that one. S-CAM.
I can't be Donald Duck. I can't. I think a lot of people are doing
Yeah.
Donald Duck.
So do you have an opinion on sort of, you've heard Mick and Lynn's approach?
Yeah.
That, really, perhaps we should forsake going perhaps into cabs and places that ask for track and trace and just go, no, I'm not doing it, and turn on your heels and walk away.
I wouldn't go in if they asked me to do that. I just wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
It's too much. That's just too far.
Yeah.
I won't wear a mask. I won't do anything apart from what I did today, and that's the first time I've done that.
Right,
Actually
okay.
put a name
name
down,
down.
and I've never done that before.
So
And if-
ordinarily, you just wouldn't
No.
play at all.
no,
Okay.
no.
All right. So we've got a second question.
Yep.
We've got 5 questions altogether, and this is question number 2. Now, this isn't really so much of a conflict of opinion. I think we're all struggling with an answer to this question. I think perhaps the whole world is struggling with an answer to this question, but I thought it was worth discussing. And that's basically, how can we win? What would need to happen? And do you think that things would need to end up becoming aggressive, or must we maintain peace? What's your opinion about how we should deal with that?
There's absolutely no question about peace or rebellion. It has to be peaceful. Otherwise, we're not going to reach a 5D level. So we have to be peaceful and understand one another's feelings. But there's a lot of people that, and of course this is my opinion, and my opinion might not be right, but in my opinion, a lot of people have been lied to for a very long time, and they don't know that. So their actions is based on those lies. So they think they're doing the right thing, and I'm not sure that they are. So if we could get more people seeing the light, so to speak, and understanding we're being lied to, then maybe more would respond in the same way, because it's a peaceful way to respond regards not wearing the masks and so on. And I just think that if more people were on that side, there'd be more of us standing up saying, no, I'm not doing that, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And it would come to an end. It has to be a balance, and there's too many that are still blindfolded to the truth, in my opinion.
Right. So, well, I do agree with you about everything being peaceful. I've been on a few of the protests. I know you've been on a few of the protests, particularly the ones in London and in Norwich. So do you think the protests are actually achieving anything?
It's so hard to say, because clearly the news channels, mainstream media, are not putting it out there, because it would encourage others that are on the fence or think that they're alone in their beliefs, because a lot of people are alone in their families. All their families around them are following the rules, and it makes them feel like they're just being difficult. When in actual fact, there's millions out there that are against all of this. And if enough people saw that, they might think, I'm not alone.
Yeah.
And they get out there and join in.
Yeah.
Or they join in whatever way they can.
Yeah.
And that would tip the balance. What the hell can the government do if everybody's saying no?
Well, thank you very much for answering. I
You're
totally agree
welcome.
with you on that one.
That's good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks. So, Chris, here we are again.
Absolutely.
You're still here. So, the next question is, can we win? Do you think there's something we should be doing? Should we become aggressive? Should we maintain peace?
I don't think aggression is an answer. I think the aggression has been happening against us all this time, but it's escalating in a way where they are pushing us and they're trying us to actually become aggressive, and it's not happening. I think the collective is maintaining a level of balance in response to the actions, and people en masse are responding in the right way.
Yeah.
I feel, looking at it with the demonstrations, they will not resort to violence. There's been isolated incidents which have been questionable as to, is that gaslighting? Is that...
Yeah.
It's been proven where people have been embedded in there to actually throw these bottles and what have you. So there's people in amongst it are trying to incite it, but people are too clever, really, I think, to actually see what's happening, but they will not, the individual will not resort to violence, which I think is correct.
Do you think there's anything more we could be doing at this stage?
Technically, we're fighting a losing battle with the main media and all the construct they're in. So whatever anybody puts out on any media that aren't the mainstream, it gets, it gets trampled upon, So we are struggling to get the truth out there. But I think the more people that do, at least there's a snippet of information going out across everywhere. People are waking up all the time, and they're getting cheesed off with it, And once they start getting a bit cheesed off and hearing the repetitiveness on the mainstream media, they start questioning it and saying, well, this person's saying that, this person's saying that. Time, is the enemy, or is time the enemy of them? The longer it goes on, the more people will actually start to question it, and rightly so, because the human instinct will kick in. They starting to feel that something's not quite right with it, because there's many dichotomies that have been proposed that the people are realising. They may forget the onesie-twosies, but the longer it goes on, the worse it is for the mainstream, and people will start to question it.
Are you hopeful for the future?
I'm doubtful. I wouldn't say hopeful at this juncture. I'd say I'm doubtful.
Okay.
And that's,
Thank you for your honesty.
No.
That was a brilliant answer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, so Mick, here we are again.
Yep.
So you've been listening to the answers to the questions.
Right.
And just to recap on what the question is basically where we're at. Do you think this needs to end up becoming aggressive to
No.
get somewhere?
No.
What's the way forward?
I think it has to be peaceful, because violence begets violence. Trust me,
Yeah.
that's happening everywhere. I watch the cops running towards peaceful groups, and what I like to see is the peaceful groups just back off. They don't retaliate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen cops actually assaulting people. So,
And do you think the marches are working?
actually, the good thing about the marches and all these protests is it lets people know they're not alone. And the people that go to these protests are spending the day with like-minded people,
Yeah.
because most of us go back home and the family don't agree with anything we say,
Yeah.
because I'm a conspiracy theorist, and that's it. They don't believe anything, they won't listen to anything. And I've got few friends left as well.
Oh, but the ones you got are really good.
Yep, and that's why we're here. This is why we're here.
It's why we're
These
here.
are the only friends I've got here.
And are you hopeful for the future?
I get a bit despondent when I look at the way people behave, because I'm watching people put on a mask, and it's second nature. As they walk towards the shop, they just put their hand in their pocket and put a mask on. Then when they come out the shop, they just take. Some people actually hang it on their ear.
Yeah.
I mean, get a grip,
Yeah.
right? So, and I tell people all the time, do you know that's bad for your health?
Yeah.
And they never listen.
Well, you're
So,
doing your best, Mick.
I don't feel hopeful for the future unless people stop watching the mainstream media,
Yeah.
because they're the real enemy.
Yeah.
That's the power of the other side.
Yeah.
So unless we can stop that, I don't think there's much hope, really.
Yeah, I
it's
agree
getting
with
worse.
everything you've said.
It's getting
Yeah.
worse.
Yeah. Thank you very much,
No
Mick.
problem.
Okay. Hello, so we're back again, Sandy. Face blanked out again. Right, so all we really want to know is where do you think things are going? Do you think that we need to carry on peacefully with marches and protests, or do you think we need to take a more sort of aggressive stance?
There's two ways this can actually go. It's either a bloody revolt of revolution by the people. If we keep getting it ignored, we've been going for the legal route, being ever so nice about it, ever so pleasant, even though we've been lied about. I've seen lots of stuff online, and we are the enemy of the mainstream media and the government and the New World Order. They will smear us. They may even kill us. And it's a difficult situation. It's very sad. It's disturbing, especially when you have children, grandchildren. It's distressing, and it does cause anxiety. I want it to go the peaceful way, but I'm afraid that I don't think it's going to end up that way.
Okay. So, by the sound of it, I don't think I need to ask you the next question, which is basically, are you hopeful for the future? Because you've really sort of said that you're not entirely fully on board that this is going to work out for us.
I'm 50-50. I just don't know which way it's going to go. I really don't know. And that's the anxiety that's in me, thinking that way. Maybe, I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And I want this to be resolved in a positive way, and where humanity can gain its strength again and find its spirituality that we've lost. We've lost it. It's sad.
Well, I agree
It's
with you
really
there.
sad.
I think this is about spirituality.
Yes.
That's
Good and evil.
that's key. Yeah, I think that's key to what's happening. Okay, so the next question is a bit of a tough one, and I think we've all discussed it. What is the difference between us and people who are believing what the government are telling them? So do you have an opinion on what is the difference? Is it just perhaps that they're watching mainstream media and they're being programmed? Or is it perhaps just that we're not watching it, so we're not seeing their point of view clearly?
I don't think it's necessarily just that, because I did used to watch the TV. Not all the time. Hated the adverts, always turned the adverts off because if a product's being thrown down my throat, I'm not buying it at all. I've been rebellious all my life, long before any internet came about. And so I had my thoughts, I always felt like I was separate from my family. So I think that, I don't know if it's genes, I don't know if it's the DNA or what it is. I've some vague memories of previous lives. I believe I was in the resistance in the last war, based on that. So I think we're just born a bit different. There's definitely a spiritual war. I heard you speaking to Sandy about it. I believe that we are in a war between good and evil, Satan and God, whatever levels, light, dark.
Yeah.
And I believe our spiritual side is here forever. I don't understand that, but I do believe it's forever. But for some reason, I think some of us have been brought back here this time round, or chose to come back this time round to fight the good fight, to stand up for human race. I do believe in different names there are, the rapture, ascension. It's in all biblical texts from all the religions, and I've never really been religious, so to speak. But I do believe that's coming. There's lots of things that point towards it. So I go by my intuition, and I just don't like following rules. I never have. Fought against it all my life, as you will know,
Yeah.
as my sister.
I wasn't going to point that out.
Well,
I'm not
yeah.
related to her really.
We're nearly two of a kind. Not quite. But yeah, I've always rebelled, and so I don't know what the difference is. And like I said, I did used to watch TV, but that has not dumbed me down. It does for some.
And nor is it upbringing, because although
No.
we might have similar opinions, we do have another sister.
That's totally different.
And our other sister wears the mask, completely believes in this, has had both vaccines now,
Yeah.
and is very proud of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay, so, well, thank you for
You're welcome.
your opinion. Thank you. Okay, so I'm sure you've heard the question, but I'll just recap on the question. There seems to be a difference between us, as in people who are adamant that we're being lied to, and people who are going along with the regime, totally believing it. What do you think the difference is? Why do you think there's such a discourse?
It's hard to nail it unless you look from a personal perspective. I've always stood back and looked in
Yeah.
at something and always tried to actually deliberate myself with what's happening. And when I look at other people just conforming, I've done that all my life, even from a young child. All through my life, I've always looked at things and where there's fads or there's fashion or there's people who are into a film and they go along with, from the 70s with Grease and Star Wars. There was all the hype that used to get pushed out. And when something like that was happening, I always stood back from it and looked at other people, what other people were doing, and think that they're just so ingrained into it.
That's a really fair point, actually, that I hadn't thought of, that comparison of how people get swept
and
along.
it's almost as if they want to be part of it, so they're not left out, so they can be accepted that they're normal, when I thought that everybody was abnormal by doing that.
Yeah?
And I thought, well, that doesn't interest me one bit. I will have to stand back and make my own decision, but not based on the mass consideration. And I think if I take that from what I experienced in my childhood, it's even fashion. I've never people wearing this type of jacket or that type of jean, or I've always worn what I'm comfortable with, and if people have got a problem with it, that's their problem, not mine. I always wore what I was comfortable in, and the same way with cars. People would buy this car, that car, because they wanted to be seen to be the same as everybody else, so they wouldn't actually cause any ripples, that they are normal.
Yeah.
But they were being abnormal to me by going along with the consensus, because they hadn't truly made their own decision as to what it was they wanted. And I think in society that people have been geared that way because they're afraid of being something different than everyone else. If you're different from everyone else, like if you don't line up for assembly in school, then you are targeted.
Yeah.
And people don't want to be targeted. They want to be the same. Well, I'm the same as you, so we can get along.
Yeah.
When in actual fact, they're denying their own self-humanity and their freedom of choice that is available to them. That you're not making your own choice. How do you feel about that? But they're conditioned to feel happy because they're going along with the consensus.
Yeah.
I've never done that in any way, shape or form. And if you
Well,
call that rebellion, that's not rebellion, that's me being an individual in a society. And as we know, people that tell the truth in times of deceit is considered as revolutionary.
Yeah.
And holistically, I am that person.
I think that's a really intelligent answer. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And it really does pinpoint why it's likely that people wearing masks are going along with it. And the reason I say that, and it just brought to mind how many people that are wearing the masks, when you confront them with the idea, as we did in a restaurant last night, to say to a waitress that these rules are silly, she actually agreed, but said, but they're the rules.
Yeah. Well, she did state it's the law.
She did state it's the law, yes,
yeah.
which it's not quite. But
No.
the point being that she could acknowledge that there was something wrong with it.
She was defending something that she didn't quite agree with herself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So the point that you've made is fantastic. So thank you very much.
Thanks again, Lynn. It's Kathy, sorry.
Yes, get the name right. So, Mick, you're back again.
Yep.
So, just to recap on the question, it was that there's a lot of people that are wearing masks.
Right.
We're quite adamant that everything's a lie. Everything that we're being told about the virus is a lie. Why do you think they are following the regime and we are not?
Because they're watching mainstream media. And that was the first thing I did last year in March. I told my mother to stop watching the BBC News and stop watching any news because it's all lies. Then a couple of months ago, both my older brothers phoned her and asked her to stand in the queue and roll her sleeve up. And she told them politely no.
Right.
And then a couple of days later, the GP phoned me to offer my mother this jag. And the day later, they phoned my mother, and both of us said no. So there is a lot of pressure on people, and it's not just peer pressure, because the medical profession is behind a lot of this, and they're guilt-tripping people into taking this, and we know it's an experiment, and that's all it is, and it's scary, and it's dangerous. And they've never done a test on animals, which is a kind of what they're supposed to do before they touch humans.
Yeah.
So getting that through to people was hard because the mainstream media is so powerful and all pervasive. It's everywhere.
So do you think that if someone could actually hack into the mainstream media and pull the plug, we'd be in a better situation and a lot more people would wake up?
Well, actually, I asked that in a video last year. I actually said in the video, I hope there's a hacker out there that can shut down the BBC.
Yeah.
Because that's what it would take.
Yeah.
The people would stop listening to what they're being told.
Right.
And the politicians are lying.
Yeah.
And I think that people like Chris James from A Warrior Calls, he's going the right way. He's trying to reintroduce common law.
Yeah.
And that is the only way we'll get out of this,
Right.
through common law and have the guilty in court.
Yeah.
And I mean everybody,
Yeah.
not just the politicians. Every doctor and nurse who's taken part in this is just as guilty as Boris Johnson.
Yeah.
Because they're all sharing the same guilt, doing the same thing, and people are dying all over the world. Now, the numbers we're getting are, they say 10%. I think there must have been at least, by now, at least 1 million people have died through this experiment. And let me add that a few years ago, America rolled out a vaccine program, and because 100 people died, they pulled it. What's happened this time?
Yeah.
There's thousands dying everywhere.
So why do you think that the people that are watching the BBC aren't aware of this information? Do you think they're just not looking or they're not listening?
Well, I keep thinking they're walking about with the like the Walking Dead, only it's the brain dead,
Yeah.
because they're not thinking for themselves. They're not capable of critical thought.
Which is something really that Chris brought up as well.
Well, that's the thing we
they're
need.
not
We need to get
thinking.
people to think for themselves and don't be told what to think.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always been a rebel.
Yeah.
That's the name of my channel.
Yeah, it is. Okay,
So-
well that's a fantastic answer.
No
Thanks
problem.
very much. So, Sandy, just to recap on the question that I've been asking everyone else, and we're not going to blank out your face this time, okay? Because you did so well last time. We're going to keep you in. So, what we're asking now is, what is the difference between the mindset of us, the people who are not wearing masks, not going along with the regime, and those who are? Have you got any personal experience with family members who think completely different to you? Have you done anything to try to show them statistics for why you believe things are the way they are?
Yeah, it's a difficult situation that we're in when you've got family members who actually believe this. And I have tried to convince a family member, I won't say the name, a family member, till I got to the point where I was being ignored. And then when I told my family member that we were coming away, he said, "Oh, you're going away with your conspiracy theorist group," which I had to laugh.
Yeah.
But
It hurt.
what? Yeah. Of course it hurts.
Because it's quite a derogatory term, isn't
It
it?
is.
So it's really
Yeah,
dismissive.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when you've done your research and you understand what conspiracy theory, where it came from,
Yeah.
where it originated from, you understand then it's a decoy to smear people who think differently.
Yeah.
I've always thought differently, and I've met a lot of people who think like me, who have always questioned stuff. And your original question about what's the difference?
Yeah.
I think it's got to be from outside our body. It's got to be spiritual or whatever's
Yeah.
there, because we are a piece of meat. But how can all these pieces of meat have different thoughts and different
Yeah.
ways of looking at the ideology, looking at reality,
Yeah.
and trying to work out what's right, what's wrong? But I think we're on the side of good.
Yeah.
We're in a battle, and we all need to ignore the division and get together as a human species, a human race that have been, they've lost the way. It's not their fault, but I think I have good thoughts that we will get through this together, whatever the result is or whatever the outcome.
Just try our best.
Just try our best.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, Celine, last question, and then you're allowed to go. So, what if we're wrong? Do you think there's any chance that you could be completely wrong and there really is a virus, it's killing people, it's deadly, and you might be a carrier with no symptoms, and you could be doing harm to the general public by not wearing a mask?
There's every chance that we're wrong, or I'm wrong, but instinct goes a long way. And long before the internet, my instinct told me there was something more than our human life. And I followed that all the way through. And then different thoughts I was hearing on the internet, which is what drew me in to following the internet in the first place. At 70 years old, I could be very wrong, but I've seen enough of life to know there's something not right in the world. I've been aware of the lies, the cheating, corruption. It's everything. So even if I'm not right about the virus, these people need to be gone. They need to be off planet. They need to be done away with. And that's very negative, but they have destroyed our lives.
So who do you consider they to be?
There's clearly various family bloodlines, and it goes way, way back. The bloodlines, if you read different things, I've been reading the Keys of Enki, and it's stating very clearly that this goes back to whatever we might call the beginning. And there was arguments between two brothers, and one's bloodline has carried on and took over control of everything.
So is this a little bit along the lines of a similarity to the Cain and Abel story?
It
do you
is
think?
exactly the
Yeah.
Cain and
So
Abel
it's like
story.
repetitive stories
Yeah.
throughout history telling us that this is what's going on. So going back to the virus and current issues, have you seen any evidence that would sway you, evidence that's available perhaps on the BBC or anywhere else in mainstream that might persuade you, fill up hospitals, anything like that, that makes you think that perhaps you're wrong?
The only way I might be wrong is because I'm watching other people's evidence, not my own. I've not been to hospitals to check them out for myself. I've seen film of empty hospitals. It's just the way different people behave. You see people going around with their masks, but I know of an incident where there'd been a massive fire and people came to my house and they didn't have any masks, and they were from the emergency services. They weren't worried about masks.
Yeah.
You see government people, they don't wear masks when they don't think they're being watched. Royals, they won't wear it when they think they're not being watched. It's complete lies, and there's so many lies that have come out over and over, but because the courts are corrupt as well, we're under, what's it called, Admiralty law, which is the law of commerce. We're not commerce, although they've listed us as commerce.
Yeah.
So they're having us over all the time, and if somebody can prove me wrong, fine, I'll eat my words. I don't believe it.
Okay.
I feel it.
Right. Well, thank you very much.
You're
We'll
welcome.
End on that note. Okay.
Hello.
So, is there any chance, Chris, that you could be completely wrong and people are dying of the virus, and that you are putting people under threat of a virus simply by not wearing a mask, and you could be contagious even though you have no symptoms? Could you be wrong?
That's a good question. It's a fair question, and it's one I would answer from my workplace. People have had vaccines. People have had 2 vaccines. People wear masks. People don't wear masks. And yet we've not lost one person from the workforce. Given the fact there's 250 people, we have contractors from all over the country coming onto site. We have people from all over the world, from Japan, from Europe especially, coming onto site. We have certain conditions that they have to meet and criteria with the tests and everything, but not one person. We've not lost one person.
No. So, is there anyone at all that you know, even outside of work? Are there people that you know who have had the virus?
No.
And no?
None.
Okay. So you're quite confident that you're right in your assessment of the
When
situation?
you say I'm right,
Yes, in respect of you've looked at the evidence and you've drawn your own conclusion.
well, my first perspective of this was you'd have to see what's happening, and my first gut reaction is being vindicated by the fact that nobody has died.
Yes. Yeah.
So my first gut reaction to this being overreaction for a pandemic that's put out there with when all the planes were still in the sky, when all the boats were still on the sea. If it was genuine, if people were dropping dead in the street, you wouldn't want to go out yourself. You'd be asking the government, what are you going to do for me? Not what the government is going to do for you in this scenario. They're always telling you what they're doing for you.
Yes.
If there was a major outbreak of a disease where people were dying on the street openly, you wouldn't leave your house.
Which reminds me a bit of the saying that's something along the lines of, you know, if there was a real pandemic, there wouldn't be an argument about whether or not there was a pandemic.
Exactly. Why do I need a test to tell me I've got something or not? And even if I don't have it, I could be symptomatic of spreading something which I haven't got.
Yes.
You know. So anyway. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank
Okay.
you. But it was just worth asking.
Yeah,
because,
absolutely,
you know,
yeah.
I think one of the criticisms that I would have of people that are wearing a mask is they don't ask themselves, what if I'm wrong?
I think
And so I think we should at least ask ourselves that and reassess the evidence that we've got that's personal to us.
Now, I understand people that wear masks because they are either afraid or they're afraid of other people that are wearing masks. So they wear the mask so they don't need to be afraid of being accosted of why they're not wearing a mask. Because then that opens up the whole realm of them having to actually know and educate themselves into the true reasons why they're wearing it or why they don't need to wear it. But people want to go and get their stuff. They're living a life as though everything will go back to normal. But they don't realize that they're slowly being conditioned to the next level and the next level on. And that's coming.
Yes.
And they don't know that.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Chris. That was
Okay.
a fantastic answer.
Do I get my donut now?
So, Mick, this is the final question.
Right.
And the question is, could you be wrong about your assessment on the virus and well, the fact that there isn't one?
Well,
Could that be incorrect?
for it to be a virus, they're supposed to isolate it, which has never happened. And the biggest red flag for me when this started was when they stopped having autopsies in the UK.
Yeah.
Then last year, there were 7 doctors in Italy who between them went to the morgue and done 100 autopsies and found that every one of these people died with underlying conditions.
Yeah.
This is not a virus. It never has been about a virus. It's been about total control of everybody in the world because they won't be happy to have all rolled their sleeves up and had this injection.
Yeah.
And that's what they're up to.
Do you have any theories on why they might want us to
Total
have this?
control. Total control. And it's quite frightening
Yeah.
when I see people behave the way they do right now. I mean, I know people that would never have dreamt of behaving like this way back in the day,
Yeah.
but they're totally out of character. And my own opinion, for what it's worth, I think anybody who takes this, well, let's just call it an experiment, because that's what it is, I think it is affecting their mental capacity. They are unable to think for themselves, and the media is not helpful in that regard.
Okay.
So,
Well, thank you for your answer.
no problem.
Right, so Sandy, this is the very last question. You're the last person to answer it. So the question is, there's clearly a difference in mindset between the people who are going along with everything and believe what the government is saying. Is there a chance you could be wrong in your way of thinking?
What I had to do to prove to myself that there's no COVID, I didn't comply, I didn't wear a mask, I didn't isolate, I've never separated myself from my children and my grandchildren. None of us caught COVID, and are we 15 months in? 15, 16
Yeah,
months.
at least, yeah.
And
It's
I'm
worth
fine.
pointing out that this video is taking place on the 26th of June, 2021.
So I proved to myself that it doesn't exist. And what we're being told is it's a massive world lie that they've bestowed on the people. And if everyone can do the same and prove it to themselves, the question of can
Yes.
you be wrong?
Yeah.
You can be wrong until you prove it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, my own personal experience is, of course, my house caught fire. The attitude of the fire brigade, there was no social distancing. They were very concerned for us, very accommodating, absolutely fantastic, because it was a sense of a real emergency. And they clearly forgot the other emergency. Had they have witnessed and been the forerunners of seeing people dying, it's not something that would have left them quite so easily, I think. And equally, when the paramedics came, they were very concerned for the children, needed to check that there'd been no smoke inhalation, there were no masks. They were just very concerned. There were actually 11 people sitting in the living room when they came in, and they sat in amongst us, and they were talking and sort of holding my hand and saying, "Oh, it'll be all right," and you're all safe and things like that. So again, I had the sense that there was a real emergency situation, and as I say, if the paramedics had been witnessing people dying, that isn't going to just dissolve from their mind and they forget about it. It would still be uppermost in their mind, and they would have behaved accordingly. but they completely forgot that COVID existed in a real emergency situation. Now, that was a sort of alarm bell for me.
Yeah.
And equally, I have actually been to the hospital and seen them empty
Well,
during a time when they were supposed to be full. So I've personally witnessed that. So those are some of my personal experiences. And of course, like everybody else here, none of us have known anyone to end up in hospital because of COVID. None of us have distanced. We've been on marches and we met up in London, and there were a good few thousand there. And none of us have had any ill effects from it.
No.
So we're either walking miracles, and
Yeah.
that must be the case because God wants us here, and or there really isn't a virus. Hopefully both. But anyway, so thank you very much for answering. But before you run off, there's three people that haven't actually been on camera. There's Kath, who's a friend of Sandy's, and we've just been introduced to her, and she's absolutely wonderful. It's been fantastic to meet you. So I just wanted to give you a mention. And of course, Ellen, Mick's wife, she's stayed in the background, didn't want to go on camera or answer any of my questions. Don't blame her. And of course, our fantastic cameraman and sound technician, Stuart. And lighting, and lighting. Brilliant. So, all of you, take care. Love to hear your comments. Thank you very much.